Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Josh.
Trying to think of new ways to say it. You know,
Hola,
so,
Carrie.
you know, like when people are dating someone for the first time and they're like, I never did this, by the way. Did you do that where you practice talking to them, introducing yourself? And they're like, hi, Carrie. You know?
No. I think I did interview. I think I practiced interview skills in the mirror.
Did you?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
But we talk to people all the time about practicing. You know, I tell people all the time, like when they're going to like approach somebody, usually like their spouse or partner on a particular issue that they're not, you know, having to muster up some courage to talk about. I was like, practice it in the mirror first. Like, see yourself perform it, see yourself do it, and also, you know, that way you can see your face.
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes you're saying something and people are like, they don't hear what you're saying. They're reading your
the expression
face.
of your face. Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, do I look like that when I say that? Yeah, you look mean, intimidating. You know, or but also hearing your voice and, you know, like it's a good idea. I don't know if it's necessary for dating though. Like, I don't know how hard it is to swipe left, to swipe right.
Dating is different.
That's how we date today. This day and age.
Yeah.
Seems like.
Yeah.
I am glad we need to do an episode on online dating, but you and I aren't the ones. I mean, we're gonna have to get a guest for that because I am so glad I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
Date today in this day and age.
Yeah, a lot of people say they don't date because they don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
They don't want to do the online social media dating.
Yeah. I think for people that are in it, see, we're getting into that topic. See, this needs to be a podcast episode. But I do think for people that are in it, like, or at least younger people, like it's not as intimidating for them. Well, because
they're natives, right?
Yeah, digital natives.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But anyways, I am trying to think of new ways to say hi, Carrie. So I might, you know, break some of those out sometime.
Okay. I'll be ready.
Yeah. But are you doing okay?
Yeah. You?
Yeah. We got to hang out last night at a work event.
Yep.
And I had so much fun.
It was fun. We had a really good
Hannah
time.
joined us. And you know, the faceless Hannah that nobody gets to see. And Rebel, who's been on the podcast before, who's also one of our business partners. She was received I think it's called the Bermudas, I think.
I can't remember.
Bermuda's Award, but it's a award for clinicians or professionals that have, you know, contributed to like the, you know, prevention and treatment of people with eating disorders.
Yep.
And it's very, you know, I feel like it was a very important award and very nice for her to get.
Right. Proud of her.
See her in her element was really neat. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think have we done the eating disorder podcast with her? Because we did the one with the, you guys did one on EMDR. We had her on with Derek to talk about first responders. And I want to say we did the first time she came on the podcast was to talk about eating disorders, right?
Well, we talked about disordered eating.
Disordered eating. Yeah. That's what it was.
Right.
Okay. So everybody needs to check that one out. The disordered eating episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one. But today we're going to talk about adult bullying. So don't go anywhere. Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Therapist Take podcast. And Carrie and I are going to talk about adult bullying today. But before we jump into that, just want to remind everybody to please subscribe to our channel. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you like the video, share it with people. But also, if you want to be notified when more of our videos are posted or whenever we go live with these podcasts, you can ring the bell and it will so you can set your notifications. But also, if you're listening to this on the audio platform, please give us a 5-star review and then head on over to YouTube and like our YouTube channel. And so that way you can see this being done live if you want to. But anyways, now that all that's done, this episode was actually inspired by a comment that was made. I can't remember on which video that on our YouTube channel that someone was, I think, responding to one of our gaslighting videos, and they were talking about basically experiencing a lot of bullying at work, and I do feel kind of bad. Like I don't respond to those comments as elaborate as I would like to, because I don't want people to think that our channel is therapy. So for anybody that has commented and you don't get a response or the response that you're looking for from us, it's because I'm trying to be I try to respond more in more generalizations, because I don't want there to be a misconception, because I feel like we need to hold ourselves to that standard.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to do that.
Right. And so, but that's was the inspiration for this episode, was to talk about adult bullying. And when I sent you the 3 options, it was the one you picked too. Why did you like that one
Just
best?
because I think it's intriguing, and I think even using those 2 words together gets your brain kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think it kind of starts with the points we want to go over today. So I'll hold off on why it stood out to me.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So, I mean, I think when we think of bullies, we don't think of adults.
That's what I was going to say. They're supposed to age out of being a bully.
Right. I mean, so that's probably one of the biggest differences, is like, why sometimes they're hard to recognize. And that's going to be the point. The first one. Let's just go over the points real quickly, because if we dive into them, and then we got to go back and go over them. Okay, so we're going to put those kind of the structure of this episode on the screen, so you kind of have an idea of what we're going to attempt to tackle today. So we're going to talk about the recognition challenges, and so why it might be difficult to recognize a bully as an adult. Or the adult bullies. We're going to talk about the tactical nuances. So adult bullying, there, as you said before in our pre-discussion, it can look the same, but there are definitely some things that are different in how adult bullies bully, right, as opposed to like kid bullies. And then what are some effective ways to respond to adult bullies, and then just reflecting on the emotional aftermath, because it might make you feel ways that you didn't anticipate when you do respond effectively. And so that's what we're going to cover today. Always make sure you check out the show notes or the description of the video. I already have some things at least on the YouTube platform. It's already in there. Some resources and there's an article I put from Psychology Today. I wrote an article on logic bullying. Do you remember that one?
I do.
Yeah, from Adam Grant.
Yeah.
It was inspired by Adam Grant. I actually emailed Adam Grant saying, because it wasn't really his term. It was a term that one of his students had said to him, told him he was a logic bully. Is what they told him. And so I emailed him asking him, like, can you just give me a definition of this? And if you guys don't know who Adam Grant is, he's a organizational psychologist, but he works in the business school at Wharton.
Is it Wharton?
Yeah, he's at Wharton.
Okay.
Pennsylvania. Is that where that's at?
I think so.
Yeah. And so, and he has a great podcast called Work Life with Adam Grant, and he is pretty big time in the world of business. Yeah. And so I was real thankful that he actually responded to the email with his definition, which I included in that blog. That is also linked in the description. But we might talk about logic bullying as part of, because that definitely would be a nuanced way that adults bully.
Yes.
So what do you see as like the differences in, like, how or why might it be difficult for people to recognize in our adult life?
I do think that, I know that for me, I guess had this as I became an adult and started interacting in the adult world. I think I had almost a naive perspective that adults grow out of that. Adults don't do that anymore, because adults know what they think, and they know how to talk about it in a way that they can handle people disagreeing or whatever, that they can handle positions of power, and that no one would misuse their power and position. I think it was naive, but I still think there's a lot of people that have that perspective because they've been taught about respect, because they've, excuse me, they've maybe had good experiences with adults as they were growing up and they trusted them. So I think that there's part of the reason that that's surprising is because you just think, but adults don't do that, right? Adults
Right.
don't bully,
Yeah.
but then they do.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that you say it like that too, because it's like my mind is thinking like, isn't that all we do as to kids? I mean, are we kind of big bullies? But it's kind of because it's kind of built into the hierarchical structure. It's not considered bullying. Like I tell my kid to go do something.
Right. Hierarchy
or-
hierarchy
Right.
isn't bullying, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
bullying
yes.
happens within a hierarchy.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's part of when it's part of the cultural fabric, like it's when you're the parent, you tell your kids to do something, they don't do it, they get in trouble. Yeah, I mean, it looks like bullying, but I think, bullying, that term, really kind of reflects like that same type of dynamic is happening on a peer-to-peer, on a peer-to-peer relationship. So that's when people, when they're getting bullied, they say, "You're not my mom.
Yes.
You ain't my dad," and it's because that's that reflection of like, this only works in the hierarchy. You're not in the hierarchy.
Right.
So why are you doing that?
Right. And maybe even in a hierarchy, right? Let's say a boss to an employee.
Yes.
They're not your mom or your dad because there was also unconditional love and positive regard built into that parent-child relationship that does not exist in a work relationship.
Right.
And so I think even there,
Right.
to say you're not my mom, you're not my dad, is that because it is bullying without that?
Yeah.
It cannot be. It can just be the hierarchy. But
Right. Yeah. So there lies the question of, okay, so if you're in a hierarchical structure, can the person in the hierarchy still bully you?
Yes.
Well, yes, they can, because if they go beyond the limits
Right.
of what would be kind of generally understood and expected in that relationship, in their role, then yes, that they can. In other words, if they were to exert their power in such a way that is beyond what would be expected, yes, that would be considered bullying. So
Yes.
parents can bully their kids, bosses can bully their employees, husbands can bully. I'm joking. They can bully their wives, but not because we're in a hierarchy.
right.
Because if you try to establish yourself in the hierarchy, then yes, you can. But wives can bully their husbands.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but can kids bully their parents? I don't think so. I don't think that's really, can our employees bully us? I don't think so. I think they could try.
Kids try.
And kids definitely try.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely like adult children bully their adult parents? Yes, but that's probably looking more like in the caretaker roles, like when the parents are they're getting older, they're aging and becoming more dependent on, and the kids are helping to take care of them. But I think it's more likely to happen in that parent-child relationship than can my 16-year-old bully me? Well, he can try. I mean, it's not going to work out very well for him.
Yeah, gets extinguished. Right?
Yeah. So, because bullying has everything to do with power and lording that power and taking advantage of that power and exploiting a perceived weakness and vulnerability of the people you perceive to
or
not
a resource.
have. Right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what we talk about. What makes it hard to recognize this? If you think adults should have grown out of that, they should, but what we're talking about is that in the world of adults, there's still power and resources that people are wielding, right? So that invites bullying.
Yeah. So a couple things, like I think what might make it hard to recognize in our adult life is similar to what might make it hard for someone to recognize bullying in a parent-child relationship. So the first thing is that you just don't tend to look for it. Like it kind of like you said, aren't we done with that?
Right.
Didn't I do my time in middle school? I mean, we look forward to being adults for a lot of reasons, and one of them is that we don't have to deal with that
bullies.
crap.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
And so that's one, is you're just not looking for it, and you're kind of expecting grown-ups to be grown up.
Yeah.
Is one of them. The other one too is that it's I think that kind of looking at like similar to the parent-child relationship is that, you know, there is, we are still in hierarchical structures.
Right.
So we have bosses, and there are police officers, you know, that are, that, you know, there's a system in place in our government, for example, that is where there are ranks,
Yes.
you know, to that. And so, you know, like, I think sometimes just like when a parent takes their power a little too far, it might not in the beginning or for a while, you know, or ever be recognized as, yeah, you're kind of bullying your kid, you know? And so I think that's another piece of it, is it kind of gets couched in the hierarchy and kind of hidden in the ranks. Well, that's normal. You know, I'm the boss. I get to say stuff like that. You know, I get to do that.
Right.
And what do you think?
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that's how it stays hidden, and I think that's also how things keep going, because it's kind of a gaslighting.
Right.
Enough
Yeah,
where
is.
you're like, but they are my employer. They do tell me my job duties, so I guess that means they get to tell me about this. You can just see where it keeps your mind questioning.
Yeah, that's the other one, by the way, when you said the gaslighting piece. We're smarter with how we do it. We're clever. We've you know, the bully has crafted, you know, is craftier or has
With life experience.
Yeah,
Yes.
they've because, you know, like you know, my bullying has to mature with me, or else I'll look like a 15-year-old
Right.
or a 14-year-old.
Well, and then it's not bullying anymore because it has no power.
Right.
Right.
So, and I think adult bullies are way scarier than kid bullies.
Yes.
Because of that piece, because it's starting to get a little sinister, you know, in how you're doing this, and that's when I think, you know, we have a term that I think is basically is synonymous to bullying, which is gaslighting.
Yep.
Which I should put that. I didn't put that article. I should link that article
Yeah. Add that one.
into the description. I've also done I'm almost done with the 4th video in the series of videos I've been doing on the 12 types of gaslighting. And so, but yeah, it's all types of bullying
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah. But I think that what you just said there too about them getting crafty is kind of the next point, like the tactical nuances.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like the word I just like that you chose tactical.
Tactical.
It captures it, right?
Yeah. I mean, cause it is. Yeah. So let's talk about, first of all, just bullies in general. What's the point? Like,
Yeah. The idea, right, that they're insecure. And so they are looking to make themselves feel less insecure by making somebody else feel insecure.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and usually the bullies become bullies at
That's
times.
right.
And so the bully, whoever
Was bullied.
not all people that are bullied become bullies, but
Right.
it would not surprise me at all if the research shows that basically all bullies have
Or
been bullied.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense, you know, like if I'm being bullied, what's the best way to protect myself from being bullied?
Become the bully.
Is to become the bully.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Well, you can see it in sibling systems.
Oh yeah.
Right? I get to boss you, you're subservient, and then that one turns to the other one and says, I'm going to boss you and be subservient. Right. So,
Yeah, absolutely. But I think, you know, when it comes to like the tactical advantage that they try to create, which, you know, I would say in children isn't being well thought out.
Yes,
You know,
right.
so it's very
impulsive.
right. And it still, you still does the job.
Still effective.
That's why I'm saying it's a little scarier with grown-ups, because I do think it kind of has to be thought out a little bit more, you know, and I'm not saying any, you know, all, if someone kind of leans toward bullying and they're as an adult, that makes them a sociopath or anything,
Right.
but it does make you, you know,
Tilt
like
your head
take
a
a
little
second
bit.
look,
Yeah.
you know, right. And so, but I think, you know, in essence, whether it's an adult bully or a kid bully, the objective is to gain, is to get the emotional high ground.
Yes.
Right. And so, I don't want you to hurt me, so I need to hurt you. And I'm not talking about physical pain, we're talking about emotional pain, so I don't want you to embarrass me, so I'm going to embarrass you. I don't want you to hurt my feelings, so I'm going to hurt your feelings, so I'm going to gain this emotional control over you. And that's how I win. That's why when I've talked to kids and teenagers about bullying and how to handle bullies, I tell them like that, you could react and knock the fire out of one of them, as my mom would say, and get physical and lay them out. They still win because they still gained emotional control over you. They still got you to do something.
They got you so fired up, you knocked the fire out.
Right. So, but if you do nothing, if you just kind of become a bump on a log, which a lot of kids will, they just shut down. So, and you see it, I hate to see these documentaries or something on bullying and these kids walking on school buses and people just pushing them and they're just like a ping pong ball and they just show no emotion about it, Even though they're shutting down that emotional element, the doing nothing is still, the bully still wins on that too. So you have to, when we get to like effective responses, we're going to talk about, that's definitely going to play into that, in my opinion.
Yeah. But I think the reason I like the word tactical is because I do think that effective adult bullies know what matters, right? They know how to hit you where it hurts, right? So kid bullies that are impulsive and green are going to do anything. But adult bullies start to read and figure out, what matters to this person?
Yes.
That's how to do it, right? So there is a more sinister piece to the idea of, they really care about their, this part of their job. I may undermine them in the following ways, right?
Right. Yeah, we were talking recently about Michael Richards just came out with his memoir, and I saw him in an interview on The View, and, he's deeply remorseful for his, racial tirade at the Laugh Factory 20 years ago, something like that. Yeah. And, kind of, I'm going to say it my way, kind of just, and how I heard him say it, or what I was hearing him say is basically when they asked him, what happened to you back then? He was basically being heckled. So in other words, he was being bullied on stage, which happens. And the way I understood what he was saying is that he examined the situation and decided he was going to hit this person where it really hurt. And he went too far with it, and it cost him a lot, and he seemed anyways very remorseful about that. Still has a hard time talking about it. And of course he pulled himself out of the limelight for 20 years because of it. Yeah. But that's, bully. That was basically a bully. I mean, comedians are professional bullies.
They really are.
They really are. Yeah. I mean, and so it was someone was trying to out-bully him. Yeah. And
he went for the most tactically effective shot.
Oh, yeah. And in from the bullying perspective, he won. Now, of course, he didn't, from a social standpoint. Right. When he comes out of his bully mindset, he didn't win. He lost big time. But but you're right. Like, I think, when you're thinking about this, how it works tactically as an adult, it gets kind of, it's subtle sometimes. Right. It can be scary, sinister. And so it can also be hard to recognize. So I think, if you're in a work situation, that's, you might be being bullied and not even recognize it because they're the boss. Right.
And I think that's something that has shifted in the workplace as we've gotten more transparent about things. Yeah. I think bullying was easier to hide. Yeah. And I don't think it's as easy to hide now.
I agree. I agree. And I think, so the first thing is this suggestion I'm going to make, I think also will come into play with effective responses. Okay. But if you're, before we get there, you got to be able to recognize it, right? And I think that this kind of goes back to what we talked about in one of our gaslighting videos, that you got to trust your gut. I mean,
Yeah.
that's really what it boils down to. Like, look, if it feels like bullying, it at least can warrant a conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe you realize in that conversation that, okay, I don't think that's what was happening. But if somebody treats you a certain way and your gut is telling you this is not okay, this is wrong, that person should be kind of mortified by the idea that you felt bullied by them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that, I would feel that way.
Sure. Yeah.
Like but so if you should be able to bring it to the table, they should welcome it to the table, and then they should apologize for that. I am so sorry
Right.
that you experienced me that way. That's like I did not mean for that, and what,
Sure.
like that. I'm grateful that you brought that to my attention, because I do not want to be perceived as a bully,
Right.
and I do not want to create a hostile work environment.
Right. Right.
And so.
But these tactical nuances, like you're talking about work, and I agree. But I think that the place that they're even better camouflaged is in the close personal relationships.
Like the peer-to-peer?
Peer-to-peer, but even romantic partners, friendships.
So there's no hierarchy, basically.
Yeah, there's no hierarchy, but they're there.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's, again, even more tactical, right? If I know something very intimately about you, I can definitely twist that to some kind of bullying opportunity.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
This doesn't just happen in workplaces.
But let me ask you a question. Have you ever felt the urge to want to keep dirt? Like when you're mad?
Oh, to keep secrets?
Not to keep secrets, but like, man, if I could find some dirt on that person, I think, the desire or there's a very, like, deep caveman / cavewoman, cave person desire deep in our DNA that just wants the tactical advantage. So when we're upset or we've been hurt or something, it's like, I wonder what I could find out on you.
Yeah. No, I do. But I think that's when we're feeling threatened. Our scarcity complex shows, and all I want to do is have something that makes me have some kind of power and influence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do think, like, in relationships though, where there's no hierarchy, no established hierarchy, like so kind of, again, what are you looking for when it looks like where it might be bullying? Well, again, first thing is trust your gut, because if it even feels like it should at least warrant a conversation, and your partner should welcome it,
right,
or your friend,
right,
or whatever. But the other thing too is that, like, if it looks like that this person is trying to establish a hierarchy in a relationship that doesn't,
that's not implicit,
there's not supposed to be one, that probably is bullying. But it's also possible that the other person isn't trying to bully. Like, so, like, it's like saying, like, can I lie to you and not be a liar? Yes, because you're telling me I'm a liar. You're saying this is a baseline part of my character.
Right.
So can I bully you and not be a bully? Yes, that can happen.
Yes.
But when it does happen, I feel like it's the job of the bullied to speak up,
to call it or name it, discuss it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And if it's a system that's healthy enough to do this rupture and repair work, you can have that conversation. Right. It also may just be you're calling out what is true and not changing, which is a bullying relationship.
Right. As Brene Brown says, how'd she say it? Speak truth to power. Speak truth to power. Yeah. So
which
what do we? Sometimes can be called speak truth to bullshit.
Yeah. We could insert
sometimes power is just bullshit.
Sometimes it is.
It is, because it's perceived power, and it's not. It's nothing.
It's just a balloon you can pop.
Right. Right. All right. So now, okay. So the third thing we were going to talk about is now, once we've identified it, you recognize it. Now, how do I effectively respond to it? And this I will say is is the trickiest part of all.
I
Like,
think
because
so.
it's,
Yeah.
and it's not foolproof. It's not like gonna
No.
do the trick every time or anything. But I do think like there are some things that people can do to add to their, kind of their toolbox,
Mm-hmm.
to be readily available to them. So if they experience that, they all know how to do that. So can I go ahead and tell I want to tell a story about one of my adult bullying experiences,
Yeah.
which I've had probably two that I can think of off the top of my head. Both of them happened on the baseball field with me as an assistant coach, which is asinine to me that I'm like 35 or 37 or however old I was back then that this happened, but this particular one, here's the funny thing is that I'd seen it happen to other people. And so I had actually told myself, like, if something like that ever happens to me, this is what I'm going to do.
Oh, yeah.
And I did it, and it worked.
Yay.
Because I prepared for it. Mm-hmm. I already had the tool in my toolbox. Look, as a 30, even then, I think I was about 35 years old. I'm 40. It's been about 10 years, 44 now. But as a 35-year-old man back then, I'm like, my fighting days are over. Like, I don't want to fight. I have no interest in getting my butt handed to me by a 55-year-old man. I really don't. Like I hadn't been in a fight since I was a teenager. Like, I don't want to do it. We're going to talk about that too in just a minute. But so I'm like, so how do you shut them down? I'm like, well, in my mind, I was like, the grown-ups don't want to go to jail, and so I was out on the field, and this guy is like just railing on one of the grandparents of one of the kids because there's something that happened on his property or something. And since I was actually in charge of practice that day, I felt, because the head coach had asked me to run the practice because he couldn't be there. So I kind of felt a little bit like responsible for the parents that were out there. And this is one of the grandparents too. And he doesn't know, he's just bringing the kid to help out the parents. And so he's getting ripped apart by this guy verbally, and to the point where I had like yell from a distance, like, hey, I'm like, don't bring that out here. So I yelled from a distance, and he's like, you come on over here, big boy. That's what he told me. It's so ridiculous. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to use my move, So I started walking over to him because I'm not going to back down from this clearly a bully. And as I got about 20 feet from him, I pulled my cell phone out, and I was like, I can just go ahead and call the police. And we'll have the police come out here. So that's what they get paid to do. That's why they exist. So they can police things. And you wouldn't believe how quickly he just shut his mouth and just went on. And I'm like, so.
You used your voice.
I used my voice.
Yeah.
I used my plan.
Your
The other
plan
thing,
worked.
too, you got to check your ego in at the door.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I wanted to talk about and kind of breaking this down is the first thing is like when you're handling adult bullies, you've got to handle it like you got to have an adult response. Mm-hmm. You can't handle an adult bully like a 5-year-old would handle a 5-year-old bully.
Right. Stay adults.
Right.
Be maybe the only adult in the
situation.
situation.
One thing, for example, I told my daughter, and I think this would work pretty much throughout most of your childhood. I said, anytime someone says anything to you, just say, so's your face. It doesn't matter what they say in response. Just keep repeating, so's your face, so's your face, so's your... They can't penetrate that. They can't get around it. It's just, it works. But that's not going to work in your adult life.
That's being a kid.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So if I'm looking at that guy going, so's your face... Mm-hmm. He might do something.
Well, and also then the people that were around the whole reason you were doing what you're doing was to set a tone of safety. They wouldn't feel safe by you having a childlike response.
Right. So you gotta. So I have to check my ego in at the door. Mm-hmm. Like, no, I was not interested in fighting the guy. If you're listening to this on a podcast, I'm a big guy. I've always been a big guy. Like, it's not. The 17-year-old in me does not like saying I threatened to call the police. That's how I handled that. But I don't care. I'm
'Cause you're
30
not 17.
I'm not 17, 35, 36. I got a family to care about. I have no interest in getting into any kind of physical altercation with anybody.
Sure.
So yeah, that's how I'll tell you straight up that I threatened to call the police on him in front of him with my phone in my hand. That's my weapon, my phone. And it shut him down. And so you got to check your ego in at the door, I think, is one thing
I think that's
that you have
point.
to do. Now, I do think another thing is, and I think this is more for less for hierarchical relationships and more for the peer-to-peer, is that you got to have compassion. You gotta, so like if I have to go to my partner, say like you and I are both co-owners of this business, and we've argued from time to time, but if I felt like you were bullying me, I kind of need to give you the benefit of the doubt. Like, I need to assume that bullying is not part of your character, and so instead of or lying, so instead of calling you a liar or calling you a bully, I probably wouldn't even use the word. I'd probably just say, Carrie, I didn't really like how this went down.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
I can have, you don't have to say, I'm trying to have compassion for you to have compassion. Right?
No,
you
I
can
don't.
do
It's,
it in
it's
how
a
you
spirit.
speak.
Yeah. It's
Right.
a spirit in how you act. Sure.
Right. But you have to speak up.
I do think that is what is unique to dealing with maybe bullying behavior peer to peer or in shared hierarchical relationships, right? That there's enough good faith and goodwill that already exists in the relationship in order to access compassion.
Right.
The silly man at the baseball practice
There's
doesn't have a time. I mean, you didn't walk over there and assassinate his character. You did access compassion
I
in
think
that way.
Yes, exactly. I
Right.
think that is where my compassion
Yeah.
came in. Is
Yeah.
I had no interest in making him feel embarrassing.
You didn't need to make him
I just
feel
wanted to
small.
shut down the
You
situation.
wanted it to be safe.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't want to expose people to that. So I think you're right. I think you have to show up as an adult, and I think you can access compassion. And this is hard to do because our primary response is you're messing with my territory. I'll protect it at all costs. This is a challenge to check your ego and access your compassion.
Right.
But I think you have to remember that all at the end of the day, how you respond to this should be more about you staying true to who you are than their behavior, right?
Right.
They're bullying you not because you're weak.
Right.
And that, I think that needs to also be embedded in these responses that we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? You're making a choice on how to act, not because you're weak. Because I do think one of the choices about how to respond is to exit.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Is
Walk
to exit,
away.
not participate, not be in it.
Yeah.
And that can maybe feel weak or giving them the high ground. But like you said, I think a lot of times responding in any way to certain situations is a childlike response.
Right.
And that walking away is the most ego-preserving, compassionate, self-respectful option.
Sure. Yeah. Why would I want to subject myself to that? Why do I want this person to live rent-free in my head, type
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
just walk away, be okay with it. Like,
Yes.
That you don't have to do that.
Yes.
And there was something I was thinking about too that when it comes to the adult response, it goes back to trusting your gut, and I think you kind of touched on this too, is that people need to realize that they're tougher than what they think, or and another way to think of that is that you're more courageous, than what you think.
Yep.
And I think what debilitates us sometimes is that sometimes in those situations, our brains misconstrue this bullying event as a dangerous event. Now it can be, and we're going to talk about that in a second, but that baseball thing, it could have been dangerous. That's why I kept my distance from the guy,
Right.
and I was ready to call the police. But there was no other than like he kind of being berating and he hadn't laid any hands on anybody. He's really up close to this guy, so like it's a bullying situation, and yes, it's possible it could turn into a dangerous situation, but is it probable? It didn't feel that way to me. Like, and so, and you might realize that, you have more courage than you realize to go address the situation.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to be able to, your danger radar needs to work.
Yes, and and that's in your gut. That's what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That danger radar. It's usually pretty accurate.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. It feels like this feels way too dangerous. Like,
Right.
And
And a danger is a big part of it. And even on that radar also is success, right? Is doing anything, is walking away going to give me actually the best success, the best win,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And that could be winning, and it also can mean avoiding danger.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think the other thing too, one of the things I have worked with people on how to, because we're talking about standing, basically taking a stand, finding your voice, having the appropriate adult response with compassion built into it, but also to how there are so many different variations of how you can respond. You can walk away,
Right.
you can speak, you can say something like, hey, and then to the different ways compassion can work in the varying circumstances. But how to make that determination, I think, boils down to asking a question that we usually say in a immature, childlike way to people, in kind of a retort to maybe bullying or just someone just being dirty to us, and we'll say, who are you to me? Who are you to me? And it's like, you're nobody, and that's kind of a, kind of what we might say to fire back at somebody.
Sure.
But I think the question is the question you have to ask.
That is the question. Yeah.
Right? Who are you to me?
Right.
In a very serious way. You don't say it out loud. It's a question you ask in your mind, like, who is this person to me? And what it be, and based upon that relationship, what is the appropriate response here?
Right.
If my brother was the one berating one of my parents, there not only would be a response in that moment, there'd be probably a lengthy conversation afterwards. Yeah. Probably me being very concerned about him,
about your
what
brother's
happened,
well-being,
man? Like,
yeah.
something going on,
Right.
because it's just not like you,
Right.
Because of who he is to me. But this guy, and to not sound, uncaring or unkind, he wasn't he was just a guy to me.
Yeah. Right.
And so the appropriate response would be a response that reflects a general care and respect for a human being.
Yes. Right. But not your brother.
But be different from my brother.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't follow up with him. I didn't feel bad if I hurt his feelings. Right. I didn't go through all that.
Because who is he to you?
Right.
But I think that question, though, I really think that question is a very helpful question. It creates a little space for you to choose your response to this, right? Who is that person to me? If I give this person space in my head, in my day, whatever, and they aren't anything, then I'm giving away prime real estate. And I don't want to do that if that's one of the options of walking away. But kind of like you said, too, I think also standing your ground is another important option in what you're responding, the way you did it. But I even think sometimes that there are times you have to do the legal standing your ground, the calling it out so that other people can see it and hear it and almost witness it, right? Those are other sometimes very appropriate responses to bullying behavior.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of on a side note here, I do think it's important to mention that for some people, their bullying situations are dangerous. Yes. Particularly in domestic violence situations, or if you're, a teenager or a kid and with highly abusive parents, Right. And those definitely are, those are more about situations of just getting to safety first, like not trying to come up with some, kind of
thoughtful response.
Yeah. Right. And so I just want to kind of put that disclaimer out there that we're not talking about that type of extreme bullying.
Yeah, we want that. I mean, we are talking about bullying, but within bullying is this potentially very dangerous, abusive type of exchange and interaction. Yeah. And that requires safety.
Right. Just real quickly, I want to mention the logic bully because
Okay, I was going to ask you
the
before we
logic
go
bully
on to the
is a
next.
little bit different
Okay.
of a beast because whereas the typically bullies are trying to gain emotional control over the person, the logic bully beats the people up with logic.
Yeah.
You know, and so they abandon the emotional high ground and go and try to gain logical high ground. You know, and so they just come up. They might be very smart, very good at
Logic.
well versed in a lot of different areas, and they just go to logic land and just kind of
Camp
drill you
out.
with it, you know, to where no matter what you say, no matter what your rebuttal is or what, you know, they're going to have something, they're going to come at an angle that you didn't prepare for, you didn't have, because that's like, it's a protective mechanism. You know, they
Right.
value their intelligence. It's helped them get to where they are, maybe. I don't want to pit anybody against anybody, but because I do think on the political spectrum, you're going to see this on both sides.
Yeah.
But Ben Shapiro is who I think of. You know, the guy, you will hardly see this guy get. You might see him lose a debate, like basically how how debates are judged, but you'll hardly see him like get, anybody get high ground on him. You know, he's always got a response, and it's all based in logic. And I do think, from a political standpoint, that's where it falls short. But if I'm trying to keep my my position, I think he's pretty good at it.
Good
in
at
that
it.
sense. I'm not saying I agree
Yeah.
with him politically. I'm just saying, like,
He's an effective logic bully.
yeah, like right. But there's on the liberal side too. You're going to see people that are able to do that well too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's everywhere. But I think we see it a lot in relationships because of our job. And often what this looks like is, especially in couples, is someone asking for certain behaviors that are very logical. Right, or critiquing certain behaviors from their partner that are very logical.
You're right.
And they're not getting anywhere. And it's because what's happening isn't about logic. What's happening is about emotions.
Right.
And it is a bully to say, well, if you would just do what I say, then we would be fine. It's not about doing the thing. It's about the actual emotional connection or withholding that emotional connection. That's the bullying piece.
I saw a video recently because one of my guilty pleasures is watching debates and stuff. That's why I've seen a lot Ben Shapiro clips and stuff. But there was this one I was watching. I don't even know his name, but he's kind of a beefed up guy that I guess he does like coaching for other people that want to get beefed up. And this debate was being talked about, like, on the question that was posed is, what is success to you? And he makes his argument, which is interesting to say the least. And so there's kind of on one side are kind of like some muscly guys, like that do this whole workout regimen and help coach people to get in shape and stuff. And the other side is just regular old guys that have different types of platforms, and their understanding of success is different. And well, when one of the other guys was starting to talk about it, this kind of muscly guy was, I don't know if he was having roid rage or what, but he really got unsettled by it and kind of started challenging him a little bit. And it went okay for a minute, but once the other guy kind of got the logical high ground, this guy went emotional and just turned into a 15-year-old kid. And just started criticizing how he looked. It started getting stood up, started getting loud, started puffing his chest, and did everything he could to bully this guy into submission. And this guy just stayed calm as a cucumber, and that's how you win.
Yeah.
Like, that's how and it's not even about winning as an adult.
Right.
Like, you're not trying to beat the bully.
Right. Well, you're trying to win for yourself, not lose your self-respect. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you need to ask yourself, am I okay with how I handled that? Not that I handled it perfectly. There probably are some things I'd do differently next time, which is what I call the polishing part of it. But, I want to feel good about how I handled any given situation.
Yeah.
That's winning, I guess.
I agree. Yeah.
So we have on our list, the last thing we were going to talk about was the emotional aftermath. And the reason we wanted to talk about that is because it might, like, if you're dealing with an adult bully, if you're an adult dealing with an adult bully in your life, and you decide to, I'm going to go ahead and try, I want to find my voice, I'm going to trust my gut, and the first thing you recognize is that it might be a little sloppy the first time. You might look back and be like, got a lot of polishing to do, but it might surprise you on how it makes you feel. Exhaust you. You feel exhausted.
Yes, depleted.
Yeah.
I feel disappointed in people. Deep disappointment.
You might feel shame because you might have to access an angry part of you, and some people don't. Some people they don't feel. It's hard for them to feel anger and not feel shame at the same time. Which means that this gives you opportunity to do some introspective work, to learn something about yourself.
Yeah.
Why is this hard for me to do?
Right.
And you might have to find yourself sitting across the couch from someone like one of us to help you kind of navigate your feelings on, like, why standing up for yourself, why, taking these measures is difficult or generates the type of feelings it does in you.
I also think it can make you feel positive things. You can feel proud of yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I sure hope it does.
I can remember a time of standing up in a workplace and I felt really proud, right?
Yeah.
The way that I handled it. I was, I think, true to myself, and it wasn't about embarrassing anybody else, but it was also about this stuff is gross gaslighting, and I'm not going to pretend it's not happening. Right? And so I think you can find your voice, and I think that you find allies in places, right? Then so that can actually feel inspiring.
Yeah.
So it's not all bad emotional aftermath.
No.
Right?
No. Yeah. So it's just really paying attention to what that did to you.
Yes.
So if it exhausted you, maybe that just means it's a muscle you need to work out more. It's atrophied, and it's like going to the gym, and you're tired after going to the gym when you haven't gone in years.
Yes. Sure.
If you're feeling, like battling some shame, you might ask yourself, what is that? Like, why would I feel shameful about standing up for myself? And so on and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
If you just feel like you just won the lottery, you might want to explore that too. Maybe it shouldn't feel that good.
Maybe it shouldn't feel that good, or maybe you need to have a different career where all you're doing is conquering bullies.
Like, you know what? You could be a cage fighter.
Superhero. Yeah.
You missed your calling.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Bullying to me is probably is a very complicated phenomenon.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a perfect solution.
I know.
It's probably always going to be around. But I do think that there is such thing as adult bullies, and adults can fall prey to them just as quickly and easily as kids can.
I agree.
Yeah. So, well, the world has.
We wish you no bullies.
Changed now.
Yeah.
This episode has
We've
changed
reformed the bullies and helped people
bully
cope.
Reform.
Yeah. Bully reform.
That should be a
program.
hashtag bully reform.
Yeah. There we
Bully
go.
reform. Go to bullyreform.com. No, don't do that.
No, don't do that.
Could be a site where we don't approve of.
Right. Could be something. Could be a site full of bullies.
It's probably a bully who created that site.
Right. Yeah. Let's not promote that.
Yeah. This is probably that guy that's like all buffed up.
Yeah. Maybe it's that guy. Yeah.
But anyways, what are we going to do next?
I don't know. We'll talk about it. I can't think about next.
Do the
I'm just
memory
doing
one.
today.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, we really appreciate everybody who supported the podcast, our YouTube channel. Please, the best way and most affordable way and quickest way you can support us is to, give us the reviews or, subscribe to our channel. It helps the algorithms, and that helps us able to get, this content out into more, I guess, more screens or more ears.
Devices.
Usually we used to say into the hands of people, but I don't know. I guess if they're watching it from their phone, it's in their hands.
iPad.
Yeah. Into the ears of people. That sounds weird.
That does sound weird.
Yeah. So, but anyways, thank you guys.